I'd like to call the Saline City Council meeting to order. If you please rise and join my colleagues and I for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. There are copies of the agenda on the back table along with listening devices if you require them, and we encourage you to sign in as well on the back table if you're so inclined to do so. Members present this evening are Council Members Delorco, Dillon, Gearbaugh, Halsch, Mayor Pro Tem Rice, and Mayor Morrow. Council Member Harmont did notify us in advance of tonight's meeting that she will be absent. From City staff, we have City Manager Swallow, Clerk Royal, Parks and Rec Director Lambert, and Wastewater Treatment Superintendent Briggs, along with Treasurer Finch. At this time, the Chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted unless there are amendments. I know there were, I think I saw a couple emails about some discussion items. If people would like to enumerate those on the agenda, that's fine. Otherwise, you're welcome to bring them up under reports and other announcements. What's your pleasure, my friends?
We can enumerate them so that they're in the record if you'd like for discussion items. And I think it was discussing city manager evaluation, follow-up items, and third island. What you can have.
Just the third island? You mean the westernmost island?
Yes, the westernmost.
Westernmost traffic island on US 12. Would you like then to move the agenda as amended, Councilmember?
I've got the RFP bidding process.
Do you want to bring that up under reports or announcements, or would you like that as a standalone enumerated item?
Standalone.
Okay, RFP bidding process. That'll be the 1, 2, 3. That'll be the 5th item, I think, under new business. How about a motion then by Dillon, seconded by Delorco, to approve the agenda as amended?
Sure.
Okay, you good with that, Mr. Delorco?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes having the motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion now to excuse the absence of our colleague, Jen Harmont? Moved by Gearbaugh to excuse the absence. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dillon. I'll get you on the next one, Mr. Delorco. All those in favor of excusing the absence, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We come now to public comments. This is the first public comment period on our agenda this evening. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward at this time, make comment to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Those wishing to speak are requested but not required to state their name and address for the record. Please note, Council will not be answering questions during this initial public comment period. Please, you have 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, Council, friends, my name is Changming Fan. I rise today continue the conversation. As you may know, several years ago, I put forth the initiative called SALT, Saline Area Light Tower, a mile-high infrastructure for many purposes. In front of you, probably everybody have a copy. I owe you one and another. So very important. I read the first paragraph just for the sake times. As the global energy landscape transition towards decentralized, high-demand architecture, traditional linear transmission infrastructure has become a strategic bottleneck. This proposal introduced the Tower of Power. As you know, Tower, T-S-A-L-T, Saline Area Light Tower, Tower of Power. A modular, mile-high, vertical utility hub designed to realize Governor Whitmer's vision of Michigan as a global hub for advanced manufacturing and defense. By integrating 9 distinct function nodes, I call it rings, either way, into a biomimic bamboo node frame structure, the Tower of Power serves as a dual use, both military and civil assets that provide both technical advantages for Department of Defense, DoD, and critical utility service for civilian populations. Mr. Mayor, how many seconds do I have left?
You have 1 minute and 7 seconds.
Okay, good. Let me just explain for you, and with a wonderful sign, I brought it from Washington, D.C. Joined 3,000 scientists of this nation, entrepreneurs, philanthropists, government officials, and environmental enthusiasts. I'm the one with this wheelchair, not visit the Pennsylvania and Constitution Avenue, museums of Smithsonian, but also most important thing is deliver the same piece I gave to you. Before you are now, let me just explain what it's about. That's not just for $392 million by this administration to enhance the called Genesis Commission for boost up the American science and engineering, but also more innovative to encourage people, especially as you know the second paragraph talk about digital twins. SALT initiative, it just matched that, not for just energy, and also is that all? Well, I have to continue next 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there additional citizen comments this evening? I would defer to the city clerk. Were there any written comments provided in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual wanted the remarks read at this time? No, sir. Easy enough. Then we will transition to the one and only presentation, which is the Youth Council yearly presentation. I'll yield the floor initially to our Parks and Rec director, and then I think she's going to introduce at least one of our youth commissioners in just a moment.
Well, good evening, City Council and everybody in the audience. Thank you so much for taking the time to let us present about the Saline Youth Council. Today I have Alicia Sajdeva here. She is our vice chair for the Youth Council. This is her second year serving with this group. I'd also like to recognize Councilmember Rice, who served as the council liaison for the first half of the year, and then Councilmember Halsh for starting in January. Before I turn it over, I just want to state that, you know, Youth Council is such a pleasure to serve on. It's the perspective that we gain from this group of young individuals who range from 9th to 12th graders. I think almost all of our students this year are from Saline High School, though in the past we've had students from other surrounding schools. They really get embedded with some of the discussions that are going on within our community. They are very inquisitive, and it is a group that as we meet, they're just getting the job done, like during the meeting. It's a very efficient group of individuals with great ideas. Alicia's here to, and I can jump into, but Alicia's going to present our year in review. So without further ado, I'll turn it over. Do you want that? Yeah, just to move it, yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Alicia. Like Sunshine mentioned, I'm the vice chair this year, and I've been a part of Saline Youth Council since my freshman year of high school. So unfortunately, Dylan, our chair, couldn't be here today, but we have a picture up of our council, and we meet here the first Tuesday of every month. Third Tuesday of every month in this building, so it's pretty cool to be able to get in the city council and sit on the chairs that you guys sit and plan out our events. So we are a group of 13 representatives, and our main goal is to set a fundraiser or activity that we do for every season. So one of those big pillars is community engagement. Some pictures are shown up on the screen of what we did this year. One of the main things we do every year without fail is leaf raking and snow shoveling for the seniors. So that's a picture of me, Dylan, and Dante leaf raking for one of the seniors in Saline. And then this winter we did a breast cancer awareness bake sale, and we raised around $366. We did this by setting up tables at the elementary schools conferences, and we just got together, we made some fun treats, and then we packaged them up, and all that money went to the National Breast Cancer Foundation, which was pretty cool. And then another thing we did was the annual toy drive for Mott's Children's Hospital. And unfortunately, our spring project, the Cultural Cook-Off, did not gain enough traction this year, but we hope that having the next whole year, we can get started planning earlier and hopefully execute that. Another thing we do is give the Youth of the Year award out. So this year we actually had Will Malloy win the Youth of the Year, and he's also on the council. So we go through that we go through the selection process as well as give the award out. The nominees for Youth of the Year are recognized for initiating change to better the Saline community, sustained participation in extracurricular activities, and they're not benefited financially for their volunteer efforts. That's our presentation. Do you guys have any questions?
Very good. You hang tight, Alicia. I want to defer first to our former council rep and our current council rep to see if they'd like to add anything for the record. Mayor Pro Tem Rice, as the council rep for the first half of the school year, do you want to provide any comments at this time?
I do. Thanks so much, Alicia. I want to apologize to Youth Council because the meeting where Tremaine took over, I was very sick, so I couldn't attend to say goodbye. But the moment that Mr. Halsh was elected to be council member, I knew he was the perfect person to lead Youth Council. So I'm really glad that I could exchange hands and pass it off to him. And you all are a great group, and best of luck to everything in the future.
Councilmember Halsh?
Yeah, I would echo. I think when I got elected and Mayor Moss, which committees we wanted as a council, Youth Council was one of my first choices. And so I'm so grateful for Nicole giving me that opportunity. I think these young people are our future. These young people have amazing ideas. They care about this city. And so I'm excited this year to see what we do next.
Very good. Let me start to my right and to my left. Councilmember Delorco, any questions for our guests this evening or comments?
I just want to thank any and all youth council members who are taking the initiative to be proactive, get involved in our community, and organize some of these initiatives. It shows that you truly care about this community and that you're passionate about civic service, and that's exactly what we need more of. So thank you so much for your time and effort.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dillon?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Having high schoolers, I know what your schedules are like. I know the demands of school work. And so finding time to commit to your community, especially attending meetings that you're actually planning and participating in is a difficult process. And I appreciate that you've made the time for that. I'm looking forward to Councilmember Halsh being a part of the Youth Council. Recently when we were in Lansing at a conference, there was a whole presentation about engaging youth and ways in which youth councils are formed, and the potential is just like endless. And so I think we came back very invigorated. It seems like he's really kind of moving in the direction of bringing some of those talking points to the group. So I'm really excited about that moving forward.
Very good. Councilmember Gearbaugh?
I just want to say I appreciate what all the work you're doing. I mean, it's been nearly more than 2 decades that we've had youth council in the city, and myself, having participated in a couple of years there, just realized that now is the time that we need more youth involved because we are starting to fail as a government, and we need to have as many people taking choice and moving forward to help us save our way of life. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Excellent presentation, Alicia. Thank you for your leadership. Please extend our thanks to your colleagues as well, and we look forward to an active and productive year as you close out this school year and begin anew in the fall, late summer of 2026. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
If there's nothing further to discuss under presentations, we're going to proceed with the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for discussion.
Mayor, I request that item, the appointment for a second alternate, 26-92 be removed.
Okay, are there additional changes?
Yeah, can I request 26-101, appointment of youth representative to Arts and Culture Committee, be removed?
If there are no additional changes, would somebody like to move the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Moved by Gearbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Delorco. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. So those items will be the first two to consider under new business. We move to public hearing. 26-48, Fire Protection Special Assessment District Public Hearing and Resolution 26-48-3. This will be a motion to open the public hearing at 7:16, affording the public an opportunity to speak to this issue.
So moved.
Moved by Gearba. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dillon. All those in favor of opening the public hearing at 7:16 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak regarding the proposed fire special assessment, regarding the fire special assessment, which will be levied for this upcoming fiscal year?
Seeing no one coming to the podium, I move to close.
Move to close at, we'll say 7:16. That was by Gearba. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Delorco. All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Public hearing is now closed. The final motion is a motion to approve or adopt or not to adopt, or not to approve, excuse me, resolution number 2648-3, special assessment for fire protection 2026 through 2027.
Move to approve and adopt.
Moved by Gearbuck to approve and adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dillon. City Manager Swallow, this is an approach that this council has used for several years now. Do you want to give a brief overview primarily for the public's benefit?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is in part how the city funds fire protection services, which are provided by the Saline Area Fire Department. As proposed in this would be a special assessment of $1 million on properties within the city. That is expected to generate about $646,746, and that is then added to the general fund contribution by the city, and just over about $440,000 to then bring us to the budget for the Saline Area Fire Department, or at least the city of Saline's portion thereof. So that is how we have funded the Saline Area Fire Department for the last several years, and certainly take any questions you may have as to the further process, but each of the property owners within the city did receive a special assessment notice, and were invited to attend this public hearing if needed.
Very good. Do either of our council representatives to the fire board care to make a comment at this time? I'll begin with Mr. Gearbaugh.
Yeah, this is basically what we've done for every year. What will be interesting is if, as we move to the fire authority, how we will either suspend this if a millage is passed and a separate funding source becomes available. Otherwise, I see we are going to continue this because we will not have sufficient funds to support the fire department in the budget that it currently presents. There will also be some indicating aspects of accounting that will happen when the budget gets readopted in June or in January underneath the new authority. So that'll all be behind the scenes, but at this point, these funds are needed in order to keep our fire department running.
Mr. Delorco?
That pretty much covers it. That certainly speaks to what I had to say about the issue.
Very good. Are there any comments or questions from the dais? Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
Just in layman's terms for folks, because I did see a couple of comments on a couple of different pages online. In layman's terms, and please, Mr. Gearbaugh, step in and correct me if I'm wrong. This assessment is our current rate that we are not raising the rate, we're just redoing the millage.
We're just reauthorizing
the millage.
City voters many decades ago, probably 4 or 5 decades ago, authorized the city to assess up to one additional mill, which right now is equivalent to approximately $646,000, to be used for fire service. We realized 5 or 6 years ago that we no longer had enough funding in our general fund to support it, so we put that in place when we went to a full-time fire department that, of course, has a significant cost to it. And so at this point, that's all we can generate for additional revenue to support the fire department. Otherwise, we have to fund it coming out of our general funds.
And when the time comes to vote to create a authority, there will be a different millage put to each participating community that, if it passes,
As under the new authority, we'll make the decision on millage request. We do anticipate that will be the case, that they will make a request to the voters that will have to be passed in all 4 jurisdictions. And then as Councilman Gearbaugh alluded to, then this millage would or this special assessment would no longer be applicable. It would no longer be applied.
do we have a timeline on when we think that may end up on the ballot? Will it end up on the November ballot?
The goal is, for my understanding, for the November ballot, but there's a number of steps that the authority has to go through. Obviously, they just recently formed, and so there'll be several authorization steps the authority will have to make, and then they'll come back to this council for placing on the ballot.
So in layman's terms, this is a reauthorization of the current millage rate that we currently have. This is not a raise in rates, and this has nothing to do with the authority at the moment. This is just what the city of Saline is paying to the Saline Area Fire Department for the upcoming fiscal year.
That's correct, and obviously, as we transition to the fire authority, that will take jurisdiction over the funds, but there's no change in the millage rate, and it is going to the Saline Area Fire Department.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Councilmember DeLarco.
Yeah, City Manager Swallow, my question is, if the millage passes, assume it gets on the ballot in November and the millage passes, we then have the option to suspend this, just make it dormant in case, for whatever reason, it's needed down the road for any purpose. We don't have to engage it, but we can have it sit dormant as it once did when it was first authorized.
Correct. It was previously authorized by the voters, and so that still remains as an option for the council. However, obviously, have justified the budget for the reason for that. I guess there could be, depending on the millage that's passed by the authority, then there could be would that expire at some point in time in the future? We may need this.
Okay, just wanted to double check on that point. Thank you.
Additional questions? I see Councilmember Hulsh's hand up.
No.
No, okay.
Questions for me?
Any discussion on the motion? It's been properly moved and seconded by Gearbaugh and Dillon to approve and to adopt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 26-96, General Appropriation Act for fiscal year 2027, public hearing and city budget adoption resolution. Similar to the previous public hearing, we'll start with the motion to open a public hearing at 7:22, affording the general public an opportunity to speak to this issue.
So moved.
Moved by Gearbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Del Orco. All those in favor of opening the public hearing say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak regarding our proposed budget for fiscal year 2027?
Again, not seeing anyone moving forward from the audience, I move to close.
Moved by Gearbaugh to close. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Rice. I'll get you on the next one, Mr. Hulsh. We're also closing at 7:23, noting no public comment. All those in favor of closing the public hearing say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. The subsequent motion is a motion to acknowledge receipt regarding the General Appropriations Act budget for fiscal year 2027 and to approve or not to approve resolution number 2696 as submitted, adopting a General Appropriation Act budget for fiscal year 2026-2027, providing for a general operating millage of 13.4514 mills, including a portion of funding required for fire special protection, refuge millage of 1.8500 mills, street millage of 1 mill, and fire special assessment of 1 mill. Is there a motion?
Move to acknowledge and approve.
Moved by Rice to acknowledge and to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Del Orco. Who would like to begin this evening? City Manager Swallow, would you like to make comment? And then I'd be happy to defer to City Treasurer Finch if she'd like to offer some statements as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, I'll start with the opening comments, and then obviously Treasurer Finch can fill in any details that you may have questions about. So with that, we are now at the adoption phase for the budget. This is obviously a project that starts way back at the beginning of the calendar year with the development of the capital improvement plan and developing those details, and then working with the departments on their requests. It goes through the Finance Committee for their review and comment. And then ultimately, we did have 2 work sessions to go over the budget in relative detail with City Council. A few of the highlights, I think, as part of the adoption resolution, you'll note that the millage, the total millage for the city operating is going down slightly. This is due to since our taxable value actually grew faster than the rate of inflation, which is a good thing. So a slight reduction in the operating millage rate. We're also proposing a small reduction in the refuse tax millage levy from 2.1 mils to 1.85. We built up a little bit of a fund balance in there, and so we based that on the basically ongoing costs with waste management to provide that refuse service. So a small reduction there as well. The others remain relatively the same, or they do remain the same, for a total of just 17.3014 mils, as was read into the record. Before you this evening, you do have the full budget document. Just to note that council does adopt the budget by basically department, and so there was some additional detail provided for you this evening that shows the summary level at the department level in the budget document, where the numbers have not changed. So all the individual detailed line items remain the same as we last discussed with the last work session meeting. So just a summary of each of the department level adoption amounts in the beginning of the document. And it remains, again, largely unchanged since our last work session meeting. With that, we'll take any questions you may have, and I can have the treasurer fill in any details.
Treasurer Finch, you want to make any comments, or you just want to stand by in the event that there are questions or concerns?
I have no comments, so.
Okay. Are there questions or comments from the dais? Mr. Halsh.
So first I want to say thank you, Treasurer Finch and City Manager Dan Swallow, as well as all the department heads, because I know budgeting is an all hands on deck event. As I've looked over the budget, I think it's a great budget. I've always said budgets are more documents. With that being said, one of the things that I would love to see moving forward is, especially when we start to think about pay raises, when we start to think about performance bonuses, like those sorts of things, I would love to see more metrics and benchmarks that hopefully can be publicly available to justify, I guess, publicly some of those pay raises. And that's not in any way to say that they aren't deserved. But I think when we start to think about the use of our citizens' tax dollars, and also making sure that we can continue to compensate our wonderful city staff fairly, I do think that it is not too much to ask that we are able to see and speak to how exactly the city staff is moving the city forward and operationalizing that city strategic plan. So that's my comment. Thank you again for all the work that you've both done to get us going next year fiscally.
Appreciate those comments. Additional questions or comments from the dais? Councilmember Gearbaugh, and I'll jump to Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
For me, one of the things we're looking at, we're going into a very difficult, I think, period again, where right now we know we have hyperinflation. We have no idea what's going to happen with fuel costs. The benefit that we have is we have a very, well, what do I call it, growing tax base that allowed us to have significant additional tax revenue coming into our base. Where I'm concerned is that we're spending it on a lot of recurring costs and not necessarily putting it into some one-time costs related to infrastructure. We're only doing one road this year, I think, or partial road plus beach court. We need to get our priorities, I think, a little more focused coming years to make sure that those items are being addressed. We've only dedicated $1 million towards roads, so that funding either has to come from another source or we need to reconsider what we're doing in the future. The other items I just want to talk about, we're adding 2 new positions to the general fund, one being the economic development director, and then also a facility manager position. I'm strongly supporting the facility management position because that was proposed almost a year and a half ago or so. We cannot function with our buildings the way they are. Somebody's got to take the lead and coordinate it. Despite having a number of concerns and issues, they're not being addressed as the way that they should be. And so hopefully having someone that can be on top of it can bring people in to do that and make sure that they happen and happen in a timely manner is a thing that we need to do in order to provide the trust for the community. Was one of the things I had proposed when I talked a year ago. And so looking to see that come in play and actually come to fruition. Hopefully we be able to work with the DPW staff or whoever to get that to occur. The one thing I do want to say that Because the LDFA expired, the loss of the tax cap share is significant. We have not put a contingency in place for that. I'd like to see that occur in the future. What we've basically done is taken the money that was captured and moved into the general funds and are now using it as part of our additional incremental expenses. So although that's beneficial to us, it does go back to how do we get monies to do things within our LDFA and our industrial parks should there be redevelopment needs or significant plans to bring in a new industry or so forth. The other piece of it is, and I will continue to focus on this, is the rec center. Despite the fact that there is support from the majority of this council, I still see it as a concern. We know now that the CARES millage is moving forward without any consideration to adjust or even help us move forward in terms of supporting it. The rec center needs more money. It can't be sustained through our own operations, and that's going to continue. I am concerned. I have asked for some information a number of times regarding memberships, have not received that information. That happened 3 times because the numbers don't support the narrative that's being talked about the membership. Lastly, where I'm looking at, for myself in terms of the one other position, economic development position, I had suggested that be a contracted position or perhaps even only be part-time at this point so that we can understand exactly what that role is going to be. I don't want to see it split into a number of things. Members of council have asked for it to be a grants management position. That is a totally different type of job responsibility, skill set, and so forth. Where I want to see it is it's going to be focused on the idea of supporting economic development outside of the downtown area. We support that with support through the Saline Main Street facility. But overall, I mean, we're looking forward on this. I think what I am hoping is that as we address more of this, and I think the community is seeing this, it's the aspect of accountability and wanting to know how the dollars are being spent. And there's issues and things that we have to look at in terms of deciding, can we provide these services still? And we may have to start looking at things such as duplication of services that are presented by other organizations, such as rec resources and such, that we may be able to reconsider what we provide and make a bigger bang for the whole community versus just the city footing the bill. Thank you.
Councilmember Gearbo, what specific numbers were you looking for in terms of rec center memberships?
The actual additional, what is the current memberships, what has been historical memberships, what have been the additional new memberships versus the memberships that have left. When you look at the budget for the numbers, as again, as I expressed 3 times, the dollar amount that is in the budget does not reflect a growth in membership. It basically is a flat and it shows an increase potentially for fee increases, but it's from 2 years ago. So the numbers do not match what I think are basically seeing as we are not seeing an increase in membership, and that's the only thing that's going to drive the benefit of the rec center is more money coming in the door.
Certainly. Mr. Swallow, did you take note of that? I know we got a holiday coming up, but if Mr. Gearbuck can get that information by the close of business next week at the absolute latest, and if it could be disseminated to the rest of council, that would be great. Councilmember Rice, I believe you had some comments?
Yeah, I just want to express to the community that a budget like this, I feel, allows us the flexibility to make some decisions as we go throughout the year, depending on the way that the economy continues to go, the way that goods and services are just going up and up. But we do have continued work to do. I think there's a couple of things that we can do as council members and a couple of things that the community can do. As council members, we need to, get knee to knee and hunker down and figure out the rec center issue. We've got to get some numbers out to the community for the Mill Pond Dam so that that decision can be made so that we can start the planning process and looking for grants and looking for funding no matter which decision we make. But one of the other things that I think we need to do as council members and as the community is to talk to our legislators. A lot of the pressures that are coming down from above, from both the federal level and the state level, are taking away our ability to be as flexible as we would like to be. These funds that are disappearing or getting squished and are really hard to get, sewer and water funds, infrastructure, education funding, utilities. We really need to put pressure on our legislators at the state and federal level to ensure that the cost of living throughout the state matches what we're seeing here in Saline. And I also would like to tell the community to pay attention to the asks this election season and what's really out there, and make sure you ask questions about what your taxes will pay for. There's a great graphic on the back of this document, which is online. Our City of Saline budget information document, page 54, has a beautiful pie graph breakdown of where all of our taxes go. So really ask questions. Where's that money going? Where's it being spent? Who's benefiting from it? Is the entire community benefiting from it? Are the realizations that some of the things that are being promised or have been promised, have priorities had to shift, and why, and what are some outcomes of previous millages and taxes. And I think with the community having those conversations, it gives us a better idea of what's important to the community, what does the community understand about the dollars that they're spending, and how can we adjust as a city to things that are outside of our control. A lot of these taxes are outside of our control, so how can we adjust better to fill some of those gaps in the services that we're not necessarily receiving as a municipality, but services that are out there for the rest of the community. And I'm not saying that those monies don't need to be spent. I'm just saying that find what's important to you, and come to us and tell us what's important to you. Things like community recreation, things like access to parks, historical preservation. What is it that's important to this community? And the more that we hear, the more that we can make those decisions based off of what your taxpayer dollars want to go to, and instead of just kind of doing it in a silo from this side of the dais. With that said, I want to thank both the city manager and the city treasurer for the presentation that you've put together for us, because these are essentially our guidebooks over the next 12 months to make sure we're staying on track and to make sure that we're being responsible with those tax dollars that the community members are entrusting us to. So thank you for these. These are lovely. I'm not usually a paper gal, but I love it. And that's all. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Rice. Are there additional comments or questions from the dais? Councilmember Dillon.
Thank you. I'm going to start with a question for the city manager. While we reduced our refuge millage, we had a conversation about this last week. Were you able to confirm whether we were able to reallocate those dollars towards the leaf pickup program, or is it strictly refuge regarding waste management pickup?
At this time, it's just strictly for the waste management pickup. And so the ballot language was such that, it's for refuse pickup, but it didn't really address kind of the compostables, if you will, for leaf pickup that we do separately.
Okay. Thank you, because I think that was something we had talked about, whether there was a reallocation. I do appreciate that the city noticed that we were at a point where we could reduce it rather than continue to collect and build funds in a fund balance. As I review the budget, I want to say a huge thank you to Treasurer Finch. I know coming in, we sort of changed process, and it was a large lift, and congratulations on doing it, and thank you very much for that. I really appreciate what's been done. It's definitely in a more user-friendly format, I think, now. And so I think that it will be a great document moving us forward that we can continually assess from. As we go with this budget, what I will say is that I do have a huge concern that infrastructure is not our #1 priority as far as spending right now. We have a lot of needs, and I think that it was previously mentioned, the dam, but our roads, our sidewalks, we've talked the talk, but we need to walk the walk at this point and get these projects done. When we were doing the road millage, I had inquired about increasing that millage so that we would have an opportunity to get our sidewalks done. And it was told it was not an option at that point. So the funding needs to come from another source. And so that's the general budget. And so I want to encourage everyone sitting up here that we have to stay focused and understand that our #1 priority is infrastructure. And I've mentioned before, I will say that where I am struggling right now is the rec center. We keep funding a rec center that we do not have an outcome for it. We continue year after year to say, well, we're working through a process, we're gonna have a committee, we're gonna have some information coming. But with that, every year, the dollars are coming from the budget. No one has ever thought that the rec center would be self-sustaining, but the contribution that the city is putting into it is astronomical, and Saline can't afford that. I do want to make a comment that there was a lot of controversy regarding the city purchasing the Davenport-Curtiss property. And if we didn't have money, why were we purchasing that? And I think that conversation, at least for me, was that we wanted to make sure that Saline's history was preserved. And we are giving ourselves a window and an exit strategy. And I think that's very important, that if it's not in the best financial interest of the city, that we are able to change direction with it. That's something that unfortunately we have not found that exit strategy for the rec center. So moving forward, I just want everyone to really think it through as to where our priorities lie as a city. Thank you.
Additional comments from the dais? Mr. Delorco?
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I want to thank Treasurer Finch for taking the extra time with me to walk me through the budget and how it came together and what the various pots of money actually mean. And I have a much broader, more thorough understanding of how this all fits together now. So thank you for that. I also want to thank all the department heads and staff for the effort and the work that's gone into this document. This document is holistic. It's easier to read now, and I'm quite proud of this document, and it's without a doubt the most important policy document that we can endorse as a council. I share some of the concerns that have been voiced by my council colleagues here this evening, but I think it's also important for us to recognize the progress that has been made over the last several years. I know that infrastructure is always going to be an ongoing need, and there's really always going to be some area where there's shortfalls, and helping us to prioritize which roads need to be fixed more than others, which infrastructure is in critical need. And I'm excited about the work that's being done in the asset management group with City Engineer Humphreys and now DPW Director, our Department of Public Service Director, Brandon McNeil, getting a database together with the GIS, understanding what's under those roads so we can prioritize the road work with what needs to be done under the roads is going to be key. What's not unique to our municipality is the shortage of funding and mechanisms to support improvements in local roads. And that's going to be a concern I have moving forward. With a total millage approval in this budget of 17.3 mils, I'm more in favor to look at budgeting options that involve bonding some of these projects so we can get these road improvements we're looking for, as opposed to raising taxes and adding more mills to the budget. So with that, I'm very happy to vote in favor of this budget this evening, and I'm excited for the year ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Delorco. I'll try to exercise some brevity here with some remarks in just a moment, but to a comment or question that was brought up by one of my colleagues, Mr. Swallow, regarding our comprehensive sidewalk program. It's my understanding, subsequent to onboarding our new DPS director, that a reconstituted sidewalk program will be presented to council later this year. Is that correct?
Yes, there is funding granted, limited funding available in the current budget. We are looking at how we could change how we really operate that, do more work in-house as opposed to contracting that out, such as removals and restoration, and then to be able to deliver, yes, basically a revised sidewalk program to City Council in this fiscal year.
Very good. The question was brought up about priorities, and I can only speak for myself, but my priorities have always remained the same, consistent and constant, which is as municipal officials, we should prioritize public safety, invest in our infrastructure, support economic development opportunities, be good stewards of our financial resources, and promote openness and transparency in city government. That's what guides my decision-making and will inform my vote on any and all budgets, including the one that's before us this evening. I'm also going to repeat something that I shared back in, I think it was 2009 when I was first elected to City Council. I'm keenly aware that I'm one member of a 7-member legislative body, and I'm not going to get everything I want. And it's not just what the 7 of us desire in a budget, but we also have to deal with external stakeholders and staff members. So if I can get 70, 80, maybe even 90% of what I want, I consider that a success. And I'm not of the delusion that I'm going to get everything I want in a document of this size and totality. I will be supporting this budget enthusiastically. It's not perfect, but I think it makes critical investments in a number of areas that are directly linked to our citizens' quality of life. I do want to speak to a few issues. Like some of my colleagues, I fully support a facilities manager. I think that's critical for maintaining our municipal assets. I think there were comments made 2 meetings back about the economic development director and maybe putting that person on a 2 to 3 year contract and evaluating performance. I think that is something worth exploring further. I believe it was Mayor Pro Tem Rice who mentioned the lack of funding for a number of critical municipal operations, and that is indeed the case. And I would note that SEMCOG will be making a big push this year at the state level to identify and secure a reliable, consistent funding stream for stormwater infrastructure, of which there is no funding stream to date. So please be on the lookout for some additional information pertaining to that. We would obviously benefit. It would be very advantageous if the state did establish a fund for stormwater infrastructure. Again, overall, I think that this is a good budget. I appreciate the work of Treasurer Finch, City Manager Swallow, and all of our city officials to get us to where we are today. Obviously, a budget is a living and breathing document, so as changes need to be made, they will be made. To the comments that were made about the rec center, Councilmember Hulsh can probably underscore this point as well, but our implementation team is working hard, and we'll have a very robust presentation to share with Council, including a number of recommendations at our second meeting in June, and I would note that we'll likely consider that proposal and presentation as a work meeting beginning at 5:30 p.m. So with that, again, I'll be casting a strong affirmative vote in favor of a motion moved by Rice, seconded by Del Orco. Again, we do have a motion on the floor moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Del Orco to acknowledge and to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it, and the motion carries 5-1 with 1 absence. We move on to new business item 2692, appointment of second alternate to WATS. This will be a motion to appoint Councilmember Dillon as the second alternate to WATS.
Move to approve.
Moved by Gearbout to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Was that Del Orco?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments?
The reason I asked if this be pulled off, we have an alternate to, it's only one position, that we have an alternate to that position. Now we're adding a second alternate for an alternate. Are we going to do this with our other committees and any other examples like this? Because I know we're running into problems with individuals being able to sometimes attend meetings and so forth. So I just thought that this seems like it's a one-off that we probably should consider for other issues if we need to.
I think if it's permissible under state law, it certainly should be considered for other municipal boards and committees. So I checked the bylaws for WATS. There's nothing that prohibits a second alternate. And as the chair of WATS, I've been a very stout advocate for all of our participating agencies to not only designate an alternate, but to ideally designate a second alternate, because we've run into several instances in recent months of not having a quorum. So obviously that's problematic not only for staff because we can't act on timely business, but also we have a dozen or so people who take time out of their busy schedules to go to a meeting in downtown Ann Arbor only to sit for 15, 20 minutes until we establish that we don't have a quorum. So I talked to Councilmember Dillon, who was the alternate to WATS before. I think she'll do a fine job in the second alternate role. I don't envision that we will need her services on any frequent basis because Councilmember Rice is available as the first alternate, and of course I'm the chair. So I try to make it a priority to be at any and all WATS meetings. But the primary genesis for moving forward with this is to encourage other participating municipalities and governmental agencies to appoint an alternate and second alternate to ensure we always are able to conduct business at our monthly meetings.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Dillon.
Thank you. When you had contacted me about being the second alternate, I agreed, as I generally do, to things to be supportive of the city. And I do have concerns. I stand by my affirmative appointment to this, but I do want to understand that this committee now has 2 alternates. We have other committees that have no alternates, and understanding what that looks like as far as across the board, because I understand, because Urban County has the same issue with not always having quorum. It's very difficult when you have numerous municipalities gathering. So I just want to understand, is this something that we are going to revisit for other committees? And at what point will we decide that a second alternate is not necessarily the right move for the city? Because I don't know whether we're going to get into a situation is everybody have 10 committee assignments, and then understanding when they have to hold those dates open.
Yeah, I think we're kind of splitting hairs here. It's just to me, it's just a second alternate to an external board. So I have no problem with evaluating other boards and committees and commissions. This is a little unique because unlike most of our other appointees, this is an external body to which we participate in. So again, I checked the bylaws. There's nothing that, and spoke to the staff, there's nothing that prohibits the appointment of a second alternate. In fact, it will be very advantageous because we want to always have a quorum at our monthly meeting so we can conduct business and take formal action. Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
I would definitely be on board with making, going through the list this upcoming year and seeing where we may need an alternate, just because I always want to make sure that somebody from the city of Saline's at the table. So yeah, that's probably a good idea. Maybe this upcoming January, just take a look and make sure this upcoming fall, make sure that we've got alternates for everything.
Very good. Any additional comments or discussion? It's been moved by Gearboss, seconded by Del Orco to appoint. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 2601, appointment of youth representative for arts culture. This is a motion to appoint Alicia. Can you help me with her last name, Councilmember Hulsh?
Setch
David to the Arts and Culture Committee.
Move to acknowledge.
Moved by Dillon, simply to acknowledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gearboss. Get you on the next one, Councilmember Hulsh. You want to begin, Councilmember Hulsh, and then I can turn over to Councilmember Dillon, who moved just to acknowledge?
Yeah, so I kind of prepared a statement to kind of recognize the moment. So tonight, I want to take a moment to recognize a truly special appointment to our Arts and Culture Committee. Alicia Sachdeva represents the very best of the next generation of leaders connected to the Saline community. Even at just 16 years old, her resume already reflects a remarkable commitment to leadership, service, advocacy, and civic engagement. Alicia currently serves as Vice President of the Saline Youth Council, where she helps organize and lead initiatives focused on youth involvement and community impact. She serves as an Institute for Youth and Policy editor through the Pivot Center, helping educate young people on public policy and civic issues. She is also a co-leader of Students Against Racism, where she has worked to promote inclusion, advocacy, education, and cultural awareness within her school community. In addition to that, Alicia serves as a youth representative for the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, where she helps evaluate grant applications and support organizations focused on youth mental health, education, and equity initiatives. That level of civic engagement and responsibility at such a young age is genuinely extraordinary. What stands out the most about Alicia is not simply the number of organizations she's involved in, but the consistency of her commitment to ensuring young people are heard, represented, and included in conversations that shape their future. What also makes this appointment especially meaningful is that Alicia reflects the incredible potential of young people throughout our broader community. Across Saline and the surrounding area, there are students and young leaders who are already contributing, already organizing, already creating, and already thinking deeply about the future of the places they call home. Too often, young people are talked about rather than talked with. Decisions are made about their future without creating meaningful spaces for them to help shape it. But the truth is simple. Young people are not just the future of our communities. They are an important part of them right now. If we want to build a smarter, stronger, and more connected Saline, we must intentionally create pathways for our young people to participate in civic life, leadership, public service, arts, culture, and local government. That responsibility belongs not only to our students, but also to us as city leaders, educators, parents, mentors, and neighbors. So tonight, I hope Alicia's appointment serves as an example of what becomes possible when young people are given a seat at the table and trusted to help shape the future of their communities. To the young people in Saline and communities beyond, your voice matters, your ideas matter, and there is a place for you in shaping the future of your communities. And to Alicia, congratulations. We are honored to have you hopefully serve on this committee, and I look forward to seeing the impact that you will have.
Thank you for that statement, Councilmember Halsh. We appreciate that. Are there questions or comments? Councilmember Dillon.
Thank you. The reason I asked that we have a discussion regarding this is that this is a new process for us, and what I want to understand are some of the back of the house issues, which are, do the arts and culture bylaws support this? Do they need to be modified?
They do not prohibit anybody under the age of 18 from serving.
Okay, I'm continuing to speak. Thank you.
Question.
It's whether, okay, can I continue? Please. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Whether this is a full-fledged member that would have voting rights, what the application process looked like, and was this open to other students to apply, is what I'd like to understand what that process. It is not about the individual, it is about the process and understanding. I've said for years, I would love to see more of our youth involved. I would love to see a youth at this table. I just want to understand that whatever process we are doing, we are following our own set of rules regarding it.
So I follow the same process for every appointee, regardless of age and background. Once they submit their application, my office contacts them to interview them, ideally in person. Sometimes that occurs over the phone. So I actually had the opportunity first to meet Alicia and sit with her at the Saline Chamber Awards. And then the subsequent week, I scheduled an appointment with her in my office to determine whether she had the time, commitment, energy, and ability to serve in this capacity. I think Councilmember Halsh summarized her qualifications quite well, and I'm not being hyperbolic here. I know a lot of 26-year-olds, so she's 16. I know a lot of 26-year-olds who are not as focused, mature, articulate, and driven as she is. So I came away from that meeting very impressed, and I really have no doubts that she'll be able to serve with great distinction and contribute to a number of initiatives and projects that the Arts and Culture Committee pursues in the ensuing years.
So thank you. So just to clarify, what is the difference between a youth representative and a standard member of a committee?
In this case, I don't believe there's a distinction.
Because we're giving it a title, and that's where I just want to understand. This is a youth representative.
I think that's a fair concern, and I think the youth representative language should probably be omitted from the motion. She's not being designated or appointed because of her youth. She happens to be a youth, but she's being appointed because of her passion, her commitment, and her commitment to excellence.
Thank you for that clarity. What I was looking for is, is there an opening on the Arts and Culture Commission for which she applied, or are you creating a space for a designated youth representative?
No, so I can actually tell you exactly how it happened. Alicia reached out wanting to continue engaging with the city over the summer. Me being on the Arts and Culture Committee, I let her know, well, we have some openings on the Arts and Culture Committee, so if you're interested in applying, I would definitely recommend you applying. So she applied and went through the normal process of being on the committee.
Clarification on me also, well, it's in the header, the motion does not include quote-unquote youth representative for appointment, it'd just be appointment to
I'm sorry, I added that. I wasn't sure if there was a separation, and I didn't.
No, I think for the purposes of minutes, I would remove youth representative.
I will take it out of the header.
We did it without objection. Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Rice, excuse me.
Just very briefly, I think this is a wonderful idea, and I think it's worth discussing perhaps for the next fiscal year, the upcoming calendar year, having youth representation on a variety of boards and commissions to include this council. I think the precedent was set a few years back with the original version of the DEI task force. I believe it specifically denoted that youth were invited to join the task force. So there may be some language that we could use as a precedent, but I would love to have that conversation so that we can have space for youth no matter if a commission is filled, so that they can get experience in how these things work. We'd have to have some conversations about whether or not they're voting members, things like that, but I think it's worth talking about at some point.
Any additional questions or comments?
Go ahead, I think, Mr.
Go ahead, Mr. Gilman.
I think that's an interesting idea. For me, it would be is making sure, one, because they're under 18 or whatever, there's safety and all those issues are put in place for that. But I would probably support more the non-quasi-judicial committees to have representation on that, because those seem to have more of a less impact in case of some kind of question or whatever as a reason for whatever response or decisions made out of those bodies. But I mean, that's part of the thing that we talked when we first set the youth council up, was to try and get them involved into other aspects of the government. And so if we want to try to move that to environmental, which I think is a very passionate thing, or even, Parks and Rec, because those are the individuals that want to use those type of our facilities, that would be a good place to put them. And I think this is a good start.
Did you have an additional comment? Councilmember Halsch, actually, he had his hand up first.
Oh, no. I hear both Councilwoman Dillon and Councilmember Rice's, or Mayor Pro Tem Rice's concerns and ideas. I do think that if we could figure out ways to continue to carve out specific spaces for our youth, I do like the idea of potentially having a youth sit here. I know there's some precedent for it on the school board, but I think I'll go more into it in my reports, but attending the MML summit this weekend really kind of opened my eyes to the opportunities that we miss by not having our youth at the table. So I am glad that we are all willing to have that conversation and kind of move that movement forward.
Councilmember Dillon.
So, thank you. Based on the conversation here, I think that, either the committee for committees should revive itself, or the policy committee, and look at, one of the things that the city had looked at was creating pro forma bylaws for our committees that don't have specific other rules. And so I think that that's one of those opportunities there in which we can start looking at where to put them and understanding, because I 100% agree having youth representation is very important. My question, like I said, was not about the individual, it was about the process and understanding, because I was designated as a youth representative, not just as a standard member. So I think that's something that we can definitely take forward in our free time.
Let's request a policy committee hearing sometime in the near future, because I think this is like the second or third meeting in a row where we said, let's talk about that in policy committee.
Yes.
So I think that's a great idea. I'll send out an email.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor moved by Dillon, seconded by Gearbox, simply to acknowledge receipt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion now to appoint?
Move to appoint.
Moved by Dillon to appoint. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Rice. Hearing no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to the regular portion of new business, which is 2698, fiscal sponsorship agreement with Saline Main Street for Davenport-Curtiss House fundraising efforts. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt and to approve or not to approve the fiscal sponsorship agreement with Saline Main Street for Davenport-Curtiss House fundraising efforts.
I'll move to acknowledge.
Moved by Gearbox to acknowledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dillon. I do want to note for the record that both Chairperson Rebecca Schneider and Molly Lumpert-Coy from the committee did indicate that unfortunately they were unable to be present, but I think that city manager will be able to address any comments or concerns in their absence. Do you want to provide some obligatory comments this evening, Mr. Swallow?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As noted in my introductory memo, that's the Davenport-Curtiss House Working Group has been planning initial fundraising efforts, and specifically to the cost of improvement projects that may be identified at the House. And they've been exploring opportunities to allow for certain public access or limited access in the exterior areas of the property. And so they've come up with an event that is tentatively planned for Saturday, August 1st. Currently designated as the backyard barbecue, to again provide some community gathering at the property to allow that public access as well as part of a fundraising effort. So with that, one of the things they looked at is allowing ease of donations for people who may want to make donations to the property and to the upkeep of the Davenport-Curtiss house. And with that, they wanted to have the opportunity for them to make charitable donations via 501c3 entity. They reached out to the Saline area Main Street, which is designated as actually officially the Saline Historic Downtown Alliance, who agreed to provide that support service. So with that, one of the things that the Main Street group did ask for is a written agreement to understand their roles and responsibilities. It is a little bit unique in that the working group is not an official entity. It is a committee of the city. So as you know, in the agreement, it does recognize that the fact that this is a committee of the city, and that's why it's coming before council for your review and approval as well.
Very good. Do the liaisons, I guess there's three of us, so any of us could speak. Let me start with Mr. Gearbutt. Does anybody, would you make comment on behalf of the Davenport-Curtiss Working Group?
Actually, mine's more the questions of this for the city in terms of what the agreement is proposed. I know we've discussed it about using them because the city can't, well, part of it is that they need to use an organization as a 501c3 because some foundations and things don't want to donate to a city. For me, the questions for the city manager are two things. One, because this is going to be used for fundraising and those type of expenses generally are not allowed to be supported by general fund taxes, what happens if there's a shortfall for this event?
So shortfall for like
the August, for the August event or something of that nature?
The event itself.
The event itself.
Who will cover that?
Well, basically, it is noted in the agreement that it is the working group's responsibility to plan the event. And so obviously, we will not, the city would not be able to issue specific funding for that.
That's kind of where I'm worried. There seems like in this agreement too, and I know this is the cold question we've been talking about, is the working group will have a responsibility to spend some funds. We know there are some funds available from the city to support the operations. These funds will be spent. There's that gap that's in there, and none of us want to necessarily talk about not being successful, but I've seen a number of fundraising events that may not generate enough effective resources to cover all the expenses that are part of that. So I didn't know if that's going to be addressed, and I think that may have to be something that we as a city have to talk about because that's a potential liability and trying to figure that out. We had that same concerns when we had it with the Jazz Festival and some other things.
Can I make real quick?
Yep.
Well, and to that point, Mr. Swallow, this predates your tenure. That was an issue that plagued is too strong of a word, but that's what comes to mind with the Celtic Festival for many years when that was still a city event because we essentially underwrote a community event. And so there were several years when weather did not create a cohesive environment or did not allow for the organizers to raise the kind of funds that necessary to pay all of their bills. So to Mr. Gearbutt's point, I do think probably some language to mitigate those concerns would be advantageous.
Right now, obviously, it has all the funds going to Saline Main Street Group, and the Saline Main Street Group basically paying the bills based on approval from the working group. So the city is not involved in directly paying the bills.
Just there looks like there's an implied responsibility because the task group is part of the city. So that's this whole issue that kind of got thrown back into is creating a 501c3 in its own self would have to have its own board and individuals that are responsible for it. So I'm just throwing that out there because this is that shadow gray area that we still consider. And hopefully this will be successful for that approach, but that's why I think there was a bigger project plan that kind of got reduced down to this event because that was a major concern that it was being too expensive and could not handle that. The only other thing, it's like what kind of information would be provided in terms of reporting that would be, I would like to see that transparency because that was the same issue we had with the 501 with Celtic Festival is to make sure that whatever expenditures and things that are approved or done through the task force do get reported back to the city.
I mean, just in section 5 in the use and distribution funds, it says basically the Saline Historic District Alliance will execute all the payments. So I mean, it doesn't have the city involved in the payment aspect, and there is some information with any basically that the SHDA will also be responsible for the financial administration reporting. So it doesn't involve the city directly, but I understand that the working group is directing how some of those funds would be spent.
I think we'll talk about this. We'll have to talk about this agreement at the working group because also I think that we're going to have to talk about that responsibility may fall upon the members of that working group.
And I would also anticipate that the working group would do some messaging on this at both. They're required, as you'll note, to provide a mid-year update in August and then an annual report to this body and the community before the end of the first quarter of 2027. Anything further, Mr. Gearbaugh? No. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Delorco, as another representative on the Davenport-Curtiss working group?
Just that the intent here is that there is a mechanism to receive donations, and I'm a little disappointed that this caveat of the event not breaking even or not raising enough funds did not come up at our working group, because I don't want
I disagree. It did come up, and so I want to make sure that's clear. That did come up.
I wouldn't call it being discussed at any level of detail like we are now. I hazard to guess that the members of the board of Saline Main Street are not under the impression that they would be on the hook for any shortfall were the event not to be as successful as we'd hoped for. So I'm a little uncomfortable that no one's here from Saline Main Street to represent that perspective at the moment. But I am supportive of the intent here, which is to partner with Saline Main Street to organize this event and to collect donations, because the genesis for this was that to create our own 501c3 for the Davenport group is going to take some time and effort, and we simply need to get something in place now. So I certainly see why this is a good idea, but I want to make sure we iron out all the details with any potential shortfall with the members of Saline Main Street in earnest at our next Davenport working group meeting.
Very good. Additional questions? Councilmember Dillon and then Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
Thank you. One of the things that caught my attention was that there is an administrative fee of 6% that will be kept by Saline Main Street of all donations received. Is that going to be clearly stated to the contributors that 6% of their donation is going to Saline Main Street? Not to the, I want to understand this, that I understand why we need to do a 501, and I just want to understand what Mr. Gearbaugh mentioned, which is whether or not, at the end of the day, what's left. And because it's saying that any excess funds will go to, they will distribute the remaining funds to the city of Saline to be used for the Davenport house. So again, I feel like we're adding in the work group, but it really is an agreement with the city. And then is that, I just want to understand a little bit better and understand the timeline and get a better clarification about this. And this is a one and done. It is strictly for this event only?
I think it was mentioned earlier, I guess just two things. Let me start with the 6% fee. It is fairly common for if there's basically a fiscal sponsorship, that is fairly common for that entity to collect a fee for their, obviously, administration of those funds. And to your point, maintaining compliance with all the 501c3 requirements. So with that being said, they did contemplate a larger and more expansive agreement, but because of some of the concerns and exactly nailing down exactly how the funds would be handled going forward, that felt that just for this event, this agreement was designed just for this event.
If I may, it seems like we might be on a trajectory here of wanting to postpone, get some additional clarification, and revisit this with the working group, which meets again a week from Wednesday. So if there are some outstanding concerns and people would feel more comfortable getting some additional clarification, we can certainly postpone to our June 1st meeting and get clarification next week when the committee reconvenes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. And so my next question, Mr. Swallow, is that is there any plan currently for the working group to establish its own 501? Is that something that is being actively pursued? Because are we going to have to keep going back and finding someone over the course of the next 3 years, 5 years, whatever the case may be, should this continue on?
The short answer is I don't know for sure exactly where that stands. I know we've had some statements from some of the members that participate on that group. Obviously, there's still decisions made exactly if the city is maintaining ownership. Some of those other decisions that I think would precede the formation of a 501c3. So I think that would come with the report out from the working group in more detail. And the short answer is that there's different ways to, provide or facilitate for this. So the city could agree to be the direct recipient of some funds and sponsorships of improvements to the house. But again, that would be a different question. That felt like because of the nature of the 501c3, making it easier for donors that they wanted to partner with Saline Main Street at this time.
And then is there any issue because we're running through different entities and it is a city of Saline at the end of the day, at the end of the line, of who can contribute, who the city can receive donations from?
So in this case, the donations would be going to Saline Main Street, not to the city.
But the city will eventually be the recipient of those donations.
If there's excess funds at the end.
Right. So is there any issue of who can contribute? Are there any particular groups for which the city cannot receive dollars?
I guess that would be an analysis of the donors at that time. I can't, that's a fairly speculative question as to who and what.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
I want this event to work like no other, but I do not like this at all. Under Section 5, it doesn't feel like we have any control over vendors as a city. This is our municipal property. Section 4, the 6% administrative fee, do they get interest while that money sits in the bank? Section number 9, Schneider and Detling are both on the board of Saline Main Street and will be making the recommendations and approving all expenditures. And I just question the conflict of interest there, even though I know that their hearts would be in the right place, covering all bases. And number 10, not having an end date of this. I feel like this is just going to turn into a perpetual cluster. I have done this before in organizations where we have been the conduit for someone who didn't have a 501c3, and essentially we become their bank and it becomes a nightmare. My question is there the capacity in the Saline Historical Society to take donations?
That's why we're not doing it.
Because you don't want to be the conduit, because it's a nightmare.
We are too small of an organization. Change our reporting. It's a volunteer organization. We have, as we know, one person handling it. We're barely functioning for the museums as it is right now, and I cannot we cannot take that responsibility out at this time.
I just don't like combining these two entities when it comes to fiscal stewardship. Making sure that we're following all of the rules that a municipality would follow. And again, I'm not saying that Saline Main Street would do anything nefarious. I just think we're mixing the waters here. I think I would like to go back to the drawing board and come up with a different way.
Can I ask, you raised some legitimate concerns, as did Councilmember Dillon, and there might be others that Councilmember Halsch wants to articulate, or maybe Councilmember Harmont will express subsequent to tonight's meeting. Can you put those in bullet point form in writing and send them to either myself, Mr. Gearbaugh, Mr. Delarico, or all three of us, and with the understanding that this item might be delayed or deferred, we can bring it up at the subsequent meeting of the Davenport-Curtiss working group, which is next Wednesday. Okay. Mr. Halsch?
Yeah, so I was, sorry for looking over your shoulder, Jim.
No worries.
But I was looking particularly at Section 8 of the agreement. So in the event that there is, God forbid, something happens and someone gets sued, who's ultimately responsible? Because it says none of the parties will be liable to any or all other parties for any indirect, incidental, consequential, punitive damages. So if it's ultimately a city committee, does that make us, even though we aren't directly party to this agreement, does that make us liable in the event of a lawsuit?
I'm not an attorney, I'm not an expert in this particular field, but I would assume because it's a city committee and a city-owned property, that we're ultimately the party that would be liable.
Deep pocket.
There's potential for it. Obviously, that's why the city carries liability insurance to protect us against that, and it does include, our operations as well as, committees and commissions. So, while there's indemnity language here, there is still a potential risk if, someone were injured or something of that nature.
So what about, I know they wouldn't do this, but let's say a vendor wasn't paid by Saline Main Street and they take it to small claims court. Are we going to small claims, or is it going to be Main Street that goes to small claims court?
Well, as the fiscal sponsor, in my mind, it would be Saline Main Street, because that's what they've been responsible for and would take on responsibility for.
That, for me, that would be something that I would personally like to see, particularly ironed out and sort of clear, because at least from my reading of it, it just seems a little unclear. And I'm the type of person to always think of worst case scenario. So yeah, just wanted to point that out and bring that up.
Okay, fair enough. Let's vote. We have just a motion on the floor, moved by Gearboss, seconded by Dillon, simply to acknowledge receipt. So we'll proceed to vote on that. All those in favor of acknowledging receipt?
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion now to approve, not approve, or would an individual or council member like to offer an alternative motion to identify whether it's acceptable to the chair?
I'd like to move to postpone to our first meeting in June, just for that, to give the ability for the group to discuss, because there's some liability issues there I think are needed too.
So postpone to a date certain, which is actually June the 1st, Mr. Gearbaugh?
Right.
So postpone action to a date certain of date certain of our next regular council meeting, which will be June 1st, 2026 at 7 p.m. with the understanding that the issue will be revisited by the Davenport-Curtiss Working Group at their next regular meeting, which will be on May the 27th. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Oh boy, I'm gonna go with Rice on that one. Okay, is there any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 2699, Rehabilitation of Well Number 2. To acknowledge receipt and to approve or not to approve the Peerless Midwest proposal for rehabilitation of Well 2 in the amount of $64,742.
Move to acknowledge and approve.
Moved by Gearbaugh to acknowledge and to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Del Orco. Wastewater Treatment Superintendent Briggs, would you care to make some comments for the public record?
Certainly. As you all are probably aware and should remember, wasn't too long ago, we had to do well 5, complete rebuild it. It got left gone too long. And from my conversations with my employees, it's been at least 10 years since well 2 was pulled and inspected. And I did just have Peerless come through and test wells 2, 3, and 6. And 2 came out the winner, so to speak, as needing the most attention. The reason it's so expensive is that in this particular case, the screen is starting to plug, and so they're recommending spending about $24,000 to treat that screen with some acid, clean it, and then go through the well and the motor too at the same time. So that's why the price tag seems a little bit higher than. We didn't spend near that much on well 5.
Can I ask you a quick question before I open it up to my colleagues here at the dais? A simple yes or no will do, but if you care to elaborate, that's fine as well. I'm assuming you're putting in protocols and procedures to ensure that there isn't a 10-year gap in the future.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Questions from the dais for Mr. Briggs? Councilmember Hulsh.
My only question is, So if this is approved, how quickly or what is the life expectancy of the repairs necessary?
Well, I couldn't say the life expectancy, but from this point on, annually, we'll have inspections of the wells done and testing to determine their flow rates and that kind of thing, so that we can see if there's any degradation in the process, and then we can pick basically the worst well to work on.
I appreciate that proactive approach that it looks like, y'all are moving to and taking.
Councilmember Gearba?
Yes, that statement. I believe the defer on this repair was because of well 7 not being online, correct? So
That's correct.
yeah, we would have probably fixed it sooner but we just didn't have the capacity at the time to do it. And well 5 was an emergency to get that done, so.
Had to do, yes.
Yep.
Additional, Councilmember Dillon?
Thank you. Mr. Briggs, just how long will the well be out of service?
It should be. I talked to the company that's going to do the work and asked them if they could have it done and the billing done by July 1st, so it's in this fiscal year. So basically in the next 4 to 6 weeks, they come and do the work.
And it will not impede our water flow now that people are ramping up with outdoor watering?
No, we still have wells 5, 6, 3, and 7 to work off of, and 7 does a really good job of supplying pretty much our daily needs. Maybe need a little boost when people are really sprinkling their lawns. So we might have another group, the lag group, kick in and run for a little while, but not for an extended period of time.
Okay. And will you, as the fiscal year transitions, will you then take each of the other wells that need sort of the same type of service offline one at a time?
Yes, the idea, the next well to look at is well 6, and that'll be in the next fiscal year.
Thank you very much.
Any additional questions or comments from the dais? Any discussion on the motion? Thank you, Mr. Briggs. Appreciate your time this evening. It's been properly moved by Gearboss, seconded by Del Arco to acknowledge and to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Last enumerated action item under new business is 26-100, Building Department permit fees. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt and to approve or not to approve the new Building Department fees as submitted.
Move to acknowledge and to approve.
Moved by Gearboss to acknowledge and approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rice. Community Development Director Aitken, thank you for your patience this evening. You may begin when ready.
All right, thank you. The memo that was sent out, it was pointed out to me that the effective dates on the page are a little screwy. Something got lost there when I uploaded it, but I can walk you through that. So as you're aware, most of the building permit fees have not been updated in 6 years, and right now it's on a scale. So what we're looking to do is meet with the International Code Council for permit fees, and Carlisle Wortman took our last 3 years of building permits and compared them to 7 communities of similar size, and as it turns out, our fees right now are about 29% lower than those communities. So running some numbers based on what our upcoming budget is just for the building department, we'd like to consolidate the 4 different steps, or the based on estimated project cost, and just create one from 0 to whatever the construction cost is. And to fund the building department's budget 100%, that multiplier, which right now is either $6, $7.25, or $8.50, depending on the price, that multiplier at $12 plus a flat or a base fee of $75 would fund the building department 100%. That increase would also be over 40%. Now with the $9 increase, $9 multiplier with the same base fee, that would fund us at 75%. Currently, we're doing pretty well with, we're above our projected revenues, but the building that we see happening right now, especially on the residential side, will begin to decrease. So instead of making the big jump from the 650 or 650 and up to 850 to make that $9 across the board, and with a flat base fee of $75 for all. This would still include a $25 application fee for processing and processing the permits, the application, scheduling, and that would be just to give you kind of a baseline. So with the $9 increase, it'd be, or $9 multiplier, the average increase would be about $30 for anything between $1,000 and $10,000. The $12 increase, it's about $51. And I'll jump down to the last one. Anything greater than $50,000, it's an $880 increase average. Whereas the $9 multiplier for anything greater than $50,000, the average is about $170 average increase. Now that's based on the permits or the construction value that we've seen to date. Now that might be lower next year depending on where development goes. And now since we are now we have Carlisle Wortman in our building department, our consulting as our consulting company. Inspection fees, the $75 base fee will cover building inspection fee one, and then any additional fees after that for just building itself. And this is building inspections vary from project to project, so we can't really ballpark what those are going to be. But for mechanical, electrical, and engineering, plumbing, we charge $60 for residential, $65 for commercial, and $75 for industrial. Now, residential is where the bulk of it is, and those permits, along with a $70 or $25 application fee, those permit fees are only based on the number of inspections they're going to need. So they might need a rough and a final, or they might just need a final. It all depends. So for a residential, we could send them out twice. The permit fee minus the application fee would be $120. We're paying Carlisle Wortman $160 to go out and do that. So we're in the hole $40 already. Right now, between plumbing and mechanical inspections, we are in the red, $16,405. Now, a lot of that is being shored up just through the department building fees, building fees. Electrical, we're still sitting pretty there. But by increasing those to $70 per inspection, it won't bring us up to break even. We'll be a lot closer. And again, this can either be done all at once by increasing the fees to $80 per inspection, or we can do it incrementally. Now, when this took over last year, there was a lot of numbers thrown around. What we thought we would save based on the number of inspections that we did in the previous year. There's some inspections that we did eliminate that aren't required by the building code and mechanical, electrical, plumbing codes. We do have staff that we do inspections that don't require a license, so like fencing, signs, final site review. We'll send them out, and that's saving us a decent chunk of money, especially on the residential side, when it comes just to make sure the floors. So, excuse me. So what I would propose is to use the $75 base fee with the $9 multiplier, and then we review it again in a year instead of making a big jump to the $12 multiplier. And then for on the fee schedule, $25 base fee would stay, and then the $75 base fee regardless of the project cost. So we'll start at, project cost $1 and then up to whatever it may be. We're not going to do the sliding scale there. And then a lot of the other stuff that you see in here is just kind of cleaning up, getting rid of some things, not charging a monthly fee of $200 for a temporary permit. It's just a one-time. And then typically they can turn it around within a few months, depending on the time of the year. The industrial, you see where it's crossed out for industrial commercial inspection. Again, it's going to be the same, so it'll just be labeled in BSNA as commercial inspection. And then fire safety, there's $65 across the board. News racks taken out. Some of it's just clean up from that. I'm proposing a $9 multiplier, $75 base fee, maintain $25 application fee, and double the permit fee for people working without a permit, and increasing the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing permit fee from 60, 65, and 75 to a flat $70 across the board.
So if council follows your recommendation and implements a gradual increase, we will be out of the red by next fiscal year?
The only place we're in the red right now is if we inspection for inspection, what we charge for inspection and what we're being charged for inspection. Right. That's where we're in the red if we itemize everything.
Sure.
It's being shored up through building permit fees and those application fees. So if we, excuse me, if we increase it to 70 now and then 80 next year, the contract with Carlisle, their inspection fees do not increase. The retainer fee does increase by 5% each year, which currently I believe is $4,700, and then next year it'll increase by 5% and so on. But the break even just on the inspection side for the mechanical, electrical, and permits, we would have to raise them to $80
sure.
from the current price, or we can incrementally raise them to $70 right now for the rest of the board, and then review the direction.
Assuming the recommendation and motion passes, these would go into effect July 1?
Correct.
Okay. And at the top of your presentation, you indicated that it's been 6 years since these have been reviewed.
6 years for building and 4 years for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Okay, so obviously that predates your tenure. Under your leadership, are you recommending or assuring this body and the community that a more comprehensive review will be done on an annual basis, every other year? What do you feel is appropriate?
Annually, especially with the ICC, because the ICC, their rates, people who adopt those, that's national. So it's not comparable, or we're not comparing us to 7 other like-sized communities. It's across the board. So incrementally working up to that.
So council should get in that be of the understanding then that a motion similar to this would be considered annually towards the end of the fiscal year.
That is correct. Yeah, that's why Carlisle's been with us just about a year now. Yep. And when their contract was approved last year, it was our goal to review everything 1 year from that, which brings us here today.
City Manager Swallow, you got a comment?
This came separately just because we're a little bit behind in terms of, the raises that probably should have been made. What we would like to do is incorporate this into our regular fee book updates as well, so that you'll see all of the fees, not only building department fees, but other departments as well, all at the same time.
I think that would be appropriate. Okay. Are there questions for either the City Manager or Community Development Director? I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Rice and then jump to Councilmember Dillon.
Is approval tonight factored into your department budget for FY27?
The options that were given is based on what the projected budget is. So yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dillon?
Thank you. So I'm looking, do we need to clarify the motion? Because you're giving us two proposals. And so, okay,
The motion would be, it's either for the $75 base fee is consistent between two options.
right.
I think what changes is the multiplier, the $9 multiplier or the $12 multiplier.
And can I jump back then to the mover in second, because that's a good point.
So the recommendation is the 9 multiplier?
That's correct.
That's fine.
That's your motion, Mr.
I
Gearbo?
had to include the 9 multiplier.
Are you clear on that, Clerk Royal? Mayor Pro Tem Rice, you were the second of the initial motion. Do you consent to still being the second?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, very good. Please continue, Councilmember Dillon.
Thank you. So what I'm trying to, there's a huge swing in the cost there. You're going at the 9 multiplier, it's only a 5.5% increase. When you go 12, it's a 40%. So, I mean, are we going really low end? That the other one is at 40? I mean, it's a huge
When you look
swing.
at the current scale, it starts out at $6 multiplier and, up to $8.50. So you are correct in that, so it's a relatively modest increase.
Right.
So when you jump to 12, obviously you can see how that would, if like the base rate, that almost doubles, so that would make sense. That it would be a much larger increase. So at this point, obviously, based on your budget projections, you believe 9 is sufficient.
9 would be sufficient for the next fiscal year.
Okay, but that only funds your department at 75%.
The building.
The building department. So the other 25% is coming from,
Revenue that we generate from. So right now, we met our revenue projection. And I anticipate that we'll meet that again next year, which will shore up the shortcomings here from going up to the $9 multiplier. And then after that, we'll look at it again next year, run some analysis and see where we are.
And that just includes like the building permit side only.
Correct.
It doesn't include some of the trades and things that.
No, trades will, again, those permit fees are only based on the number of inspections required.
right.
So right now, if they only need 2 inspections for residential, it's $120
Right.
that we charge them, but we pay.
But again, we're losing money on every inspection. You're just making it up in a different place. And I'm not looking to gouge people. I guess I'm just trying to understand what that other revenue stream is supposed to be paying for.
It all comes out of the building department budget. It covers everything. I broke down the inspections. I broke them out to justify the increased fee for inspections.
Okay.
So what we make in building permit fees covers inspection fees also, where we're falling short.
Okay. And then one of the big issues that we see a lot in this community is people that proceed with work without permits. And so you're saying that if you work without a permit, then it's double the permit fee. So instead of 25, they're paying 50? Is that what that is?
That's only the application fee. If it's building, it'll be, if their permit fee is $1,000, they'll pay $2,000.
Okay. I think that's where I want people to feel that pressure. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much.
It's rare that happens. A lot of the times, we leave on a Friday and come back on a Monday and somebody has a new roof.
Right.
That's where we see a lot of the work without permit.
And then just understanding, just for edification, if anyone's looking at the document, when we look at the dates for some of the documents, those are based on, it's not our update. Those are the last days that we were permitted. Like when you're looking at things that say 2013.
That was the last time these were updated.
Right.
Yes.
So, are we looking at those in other ways? Like a bond demolition hasn't been updated since 2009. Is that something that the cities, that's within our purview to change that? And is there a reason that we're not?
We don't get many demolitions. We haven't had, I think we had the one up on North Ann Arbor, and there hasn't been any issue there.
I mean, it's based on the cost that you anticipate, so if the cost has not significantly increased, you're not going to necessarily raise that fee, correct? Yeah.
Any additional questions?
No, I'll
Councilmember
stop there.
Dillon?
Thank you.
Additional comments or questions from the dais? Mr. Gearbaugh?
We were talking about this before, about like engineering costs and those such, making sure that, are we sufficient in the fee that we charge for this? Do we just directly pass on the cost of the engineer, or are we charging some base fee for in-house engineering?
The only time that we collect anything for engineering would be at the site plan level, which is an escrow amount based on acreage. And so we collect that up front, and then it's invoiced through whoever does the plan.
And you have sufficient funding or mechanism to make sure that engineering occurs, whether it's in-house or out-of-house?
Yes, it's a refundable fee, and then on the fee page for site plan, it states that the city, if insufficient funding occurs, then another escrow would be required.
So again, as Councilmember Dillon was mentioning, when you mentioned the 40% and then, the 5.5, I guess I'm trying to understand again, so you're anticipating a 6-year plan to cover this? Or, because I'm looking, if our construction is going to be going down too, that multiplier is not necessarily going to work. You're saying a 40% increase if you were to cover your full budget.
Yes.
So you're using a 9 multiplier, which is only a 5.5% increase. But if you use a 0.12 or a $12 increase, there would be a 40% increase to cover your full budget. So
there would be a 40% increase over the current rates.
Right.
Yes.
But
that would cover us
completely 100%.
100%.
But what's your goal? Just to stay at 75%?
No, it's to look at it incrementally. So we'll review it again in a year, and if it's based on ICC or where we are with our budget, then increase it again possibly in another year.
So next year we could go up to a 10, 11, so forth, so that we get this. That's where I'm trying to figure out the shortfall, because if we're continuing to go further, we're going to lose. So even though I know you're recommending 9 and 12, was there something in between that would have been more?
I ran some numbers, and we're talking about a difference of $1,500 to $2,000 a year difference. It wasn't anything significant, so doing it incrementally is kind of, since the price of everything is going up, just to soften the blow a little bit instead of going,
Well, and that is, the base, so you're adding on the inflation, and so now the permit fees are being driven by that inflationary cost. As we talk about attainable housing and building costs and so forth, that's where I'm starting to look at these fees and how it keeps coming up. So when you look at us compared to Plymouth or looking at to Ann Arbor, Dexter, Chelsea, we're still more affordable than they are, or won't be. We're catching up to them.
Based on the fees, yeah, our fees are a lot less than what theirs are.
Okay. Councilmember Delarico, before we wrap this up?
Yeah, you'd stated at the outset of the conversation that we're 29% below what other municipalities are, similar in size and scope. So why isn't that the target? Why are we needing to go 40 to get to a place where we're subsidizing the efforts of the building department?
Again, just to try to soften the blow a little bit, so since they haven't been increased in 6 years, to make that
to build in make-up cushion.
Yeah.
Okay. Buffer. Okay.
I'm not comfortable making that big leap.
No, I understand. We don't want to do anything to discourage people from pulling permits, that's for sure. And we did a similar thing with utility rate increases. Yes. So it makes sense to me. I'm just trying to get a sense of the overall end game.
Yeah, since with our revenue projections for the fiscal year we're in, we've surpassed that. So okay. We're not going to fall short on our budget here. So we're not in the red on our budget in revenue versus expenses. And I don't anticipate we will be next year. I just don't want to push all that back on to the public right now.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Gearbo, before we vote?
Just one last statement. I appreciate you going after this because if you look at our last audited statement, and it's every year, we're well in excess of $1 million or more of subsidizing the building department over the last, I don't know how many years. So there's a specific footnote in there that talks about it, 20 years or so, that the city has subsidized the developers and building to a large dollar term, and I'm glad that we're getting this addressed.
If there's nothing further, we do for the primarily for the public's edification and benefit. Clerk Royal, can you read back the modified motion that was offered from the floor?
Well, I updated it because it didn't make sense to me, so I didn't know if it.
Oh, that's good that you're reading it back, so I want to make sure the mover and the second are comfortable with it.
So what I have is to acknowledge receipt and to approve the new building department fees to a $75 base fee plus a multiplier of $9 per thousand of construction value, and to increase inspection fees from the current cost to $70 per inspection regardless of use.
Good by you, Director Adkin. Is that the spirit? If not, okay.
For the permit side, and then on the fee schedule, make the necessary corrections in there. One thing, contractor registration, we were charging that annually. We're going to change that to a 3-year cycle, which is whenever their license expires or they renew their license. They pay $15 fee. It's not a huge revenue generator by any means.
Do we need to add to this motion and as additionally recommended by the Community Development Director?
That would probably be safe, yes.
Well, the fee book is coming forward in another month, so we could add it to that.
Yeah, I can clean all this up with.
Why don't we do it that way?
But that one.
Yeah, okay. Gearbo, you good with the motion that was read by the city clerk?
Yeah, just one last question. You're saying 70. You're moving to $70 across the board for plumbing, electrical, and there isn't any large disparity in the number of inspections done for each one of those categories?
Not a large disparity. No.
And Rice, you're still comfortable moving that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, there's no additional discussion. We're going to proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Gearboss, seconded by Rice, to acknowledge and to approve with modified language. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. We move on to the discussion portion of our agenda. First up is reports and other announcements, including updates from boards, committees, commissions, and task forces. I'll start to my right and to my left. Councilmember Halsch.
A couple reports. So one, I was able to attend the MML Event Summit this past weekend. The focus of the summit was on how do we build trust and engagement in our communities as local leaders. One of the things that stood out to me is that particularly in rural communities, there is a lot of distrust and engagement is eroding within those communities. And so I'm excited to kind of put together some of that material and some of my thoughts to share with the rest of council. I was not able to attend in person the last rec center implementation team meeting due to a family emergency, but I know that we are in the process as a implementation team of scoring out all of our proposed capital improvement projects associated with the appropriation. So that is something that will be discussed and tabulated this coming Tuesday. And then finally, there is a civil rights in the age of AI virtual summit happening on 6/17 from 10 to 3. That was sponsored, or that is sponsored by the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, which was able to do a cultural competency training during the summit. So I would definitely encourage anyone interested to attend.
Very good. Councilmember Del Arco.
Yeah, and our Davenport working group did meet last week on Wednesday. We approved sort of our first public event where the property was accessible to the public for the purpose of taking photographs for the junior-senior prom at Saline High School, which actually occurred in Chelsea. I understand the event was fairly well attended and was successful, so that was just some nice little first win to get some access to the property for the public. And if you notice, there's going to be some hustle and bustle at the mansion this week. We authorized the Eastern Michigan University Preservation Studies program to continue. This is basically a continuation of the graduate level curatorship course that had been done previously for archiving of collections and the relationship between the archival collections and the museum collections. The group is going to be using the property basically all week from 8:30 to 5. So if you see a lot of cars and a lot of traffic over there, that's what's going on. And this Saturday, the 23rd, the group will be hosting our strategic planning retreat with Dana Wong. We're supposed to organize together as a group and start talking about start defining what the mission and goals of the group are going to be long term, and that's going to be a 3-hour meeting. We're hoping to get a lot accomplished during that time.
Thank you, Councilmember Dillon.
Thank you. The Urban County Executive Committee met on the 13th, and we went through, approved the 26-27 annual action plan, and kind of segueing back to at the beginning of our meeting about needing a delegate for WATS, we actually have now changed our meeting times because that group is struggling to make quorum, and we're missing deadlines. It's putting them in a really precarious place because they're not able to take action at our meetings. So we're hoping by changing the time of our meetings, it will help to increase participation. And then let's see, sorry, I think it's not this one. The Cable Commission met the other day, and we had some robust conversations regarding equipment for this room, for the council chambers, and it is tentatively agreed that we are going to be replacing some equipment in this room. I will start with the microphones here at the dais will all be replaced. They will be a similar style, but they will all be cordless and rechargeable. They will not need batteries. In addition to buying the ones for this, we will have other ones that will be used when we have guests that are speaking from below the dais. We will have new handheld mics purchased also, and lapel mics for different occasions. We are also going to have an active on-air sign, sort of old style, DJ booth, so that people that are in the room clearly understand that what is happening in the room is being recorded and that they are waiving their rights to it. There will also be a timer purchased, visual timer, that when it is activated from the dais, whoever is in the audience giving comment will see the time as it elapses so that they have a better understanding of how much time they have left. And all of those pieces are going to be coming back soon. There's other tech pieces too. But we will also be purchasing a small speaker microphone portable system. We have the very large one that people will see at the Memorial Day parade, but we needed something smaller scale that's a little bit more manageable by one person for small events, like a flag raising or any kind of public event. So that should be coming very soon. And I'm trying to think, Mr. Swallow, can you remember which other equipment? Unfortunately, I don't have the list that I had. I don't see right here in front.
Also the airtime system.
Oh, yes, excuse me. That was the thing. I thought of that when I saw it on the thing. We will be putting a new airtime system, an updated one, into this room, which will hopefully alleviate some of our connection issues, specifically when presentations are being used. Unfortunately, that system is back ordered significantly, so we are on a wait list for it, but as soon as it comes in, it will be installed. And all of those items will be purchased using PEG fees at no technical cost to the city.
Thank you. To follow up on a comment made by Councilmember DeLorico, yes, the open house at the Davenport-Curtiss property this Saturday was, I thought, fairly successful. I think if we were to do that again, I would get a press release out well in advance of the Saturday of prom. But I was there to supervise along with, was joined by Bruce Westlake and Linda Tarr, and also Sue Kelch from the committee. I would say we had about 50, 55 people come through. A nice combination of actually older adults, some seniors from the area, and prom goers who wanted their picture taken, usually or generally with the mansion in the backdrop. I also want to remind council and the community that our Memorial Day parade will be a week from today. A kickoff of the parade is 10 a.m. at the corner of Michigan Ave and Harris Street. There will be a program immediately following the parade at Oakwood Cemetery, which I hope everyone will attend. And then I believe there will be refreshments at the American Legion Post subsequent to that. So if council members would like to participate, I would encourage someone to pull the banner and just be out front by about 9:45 on Monday, Memorial Day. And hopefully everyone will be able to attend. Councilmember Gearbaugh.
Thanks, Mayor. Number of things. This last week, planning met to discuss, the McDonald's redesign. McDonald's will be demolishing the existing building and building a new facility, slightly smaller, but fortunately they'll be doing and correcting a number of things, and that likely will take approximately 14 to 16 weeks. I believe they were thinking of probably reopening the new building the end of this October or September in the fall. Looking forward to that. One of the concerns that was brought forward was an engineering report, and that was learned later that the report had been prepared. It probably hadn't been afforded to us, and so that met the condition for one of the chair had put on it. Also, there was discussion regarding the green space and the concerns that potentially, should council consider the site plan? It's not necessarily required to have a site plan, but concerns were brought up by the chair and myself regarding ADA grading, impervious surface change, fire code violations that we're aware of back in 2020, and a number of other things that I think really need to be addressed if we're going to move this forward. The chair's concern was it being a private-public project with a lot of commitment of public dollars and other things. It needs to be as forward and transparent as possible. The fire board, I've been working with members of the personnel committee to address contract negotiations for the fire board. Those are moving ahead. Risk management this week did not meet. There were other priorities, but we're also pending the city manager's summary of risks that we'll be looking at. So hopefully we'll have that developed and be able to present that to you next month. And then lastly, I want to thank everyone that came out to the open house for the farm this week. The Saline Area Library had its public, luckily, had their reading and story time at the farm. We had a little bit of rain, but we brought it inside the farmhouse. We had over 28 people in attendance. And I encourage everyone to come out to the farm. There's over 18, no, what do we got right now? I think there's 16 sheep, 10 lambs and 6 ewes, and the things are cuter than anything. So we've got one little black lamb, so whoever feels like they're being that little lost black sheep, come out and visit.
Very good. Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
I haven't had any meetings. Those are tomorrow, and I will be meeting with a couple of colleagues this week. Look forward to some information on the official social medias, as well as the library social media about a small Pride get-together outside of City Hall to acknowledge Pride Month and raise our Pride flag, and have a couple activities for the community to join in on. And that date will most likely be June the 6th, but we're working on shoring that up.
Very good. Councilmember Dillon, do you want to talk briefly about the city manager evaluation process?
I do, but before I do that, there was one other thing that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, and it's a statement that I want to read because I think it's very pertinent to our community at this time. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, a time to recognize that mental health is just as important as physical health. Each of us carries experiences, challenges, and emotions that aren't always visible, and it's important to remember that no one should have to face those struggles alone. As we move beyond the month of May, let's commit to checking in with ourselves and with one another. A simple conversation, a kind word, or a moment of understanding can make a meaningful difference in someone's life. If you or someone you know is struggling, help is available. You can call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis lifeline to connect with a trained counselor who are there to listen, support, and guide you through difficult times. You are not alone, and your life matters. Let's please continue to break the stigma, support one another, and create a community where it is okay to ask for help.
Thank you for that statement.
Okay. Moving on to the city manager evaluation. This has been a process of all processes. We had a meeting today, the city manager, HR Director Getchman, Councilmember Hermount, myself, and our consultant, Mr. Vitorano. And what we were looking at is the issue we have right now is Councilmember Hermount had created a matrix that everyone was given at one point, and it relates back directly to the strategic plan. The issue that we're having right now is that neither this body nor the city manager or even department heads have really been focused on the specifics of the strategic plan, and to use those as goals and measurements for the city manager's evaluation is not necessarily fair and accurate. What we did was talk through some processes and discussed what would be the best way to move forward. And right now, what the group has decided is that in the immediate time, we should look at more of a check-in evaluation process. And with that, we can either use the version of the city manager evaluation that the city previously had, or there is another working model from our consultant. He's trying to decipher between the two documents right now, but it will be focused for us with the model, It will focus with the current city manager model that the city has used previously, as that's the one that everyone absent Councilmember Hulsh has had experience with. What we do think that right now we need to get a more comprehensive version. But that's going to take a little bit of time to figure out what the priorities of this body are and how we want to move it forward. Our consultant, part of the hiring process of the city manager, there was a fee built into that for the consultant to aid with the evaluation of the city manager. So what we do now is not at a cost to the city. As we move forward, if we would like his experience and expertise in developing something and facilitating meetings, we would have to establish what that cost would look like. He thought that our timetable was a little aggressive in that there are different pieces to it. The city manager has to do a self-evaluation piece, for which then council needs to use that as part of its evaluation. And then the evaluation needs to go to HR and or the consultant to tally all the numbers and really digest the data so that it's in a presentable form so that we are able to then discuss it at a meeting. Right now, we are looking, he suggested that we move our evaluation to the second meeting in July.
Oh, in July?
In July.
Oh, I thought you had said June.
Yes, that's what we initially talked about. And then as we discussed this, he did not feel as though that was adequate time for everything to be done. This is why we're bringing this here to find in. He said, you know, if we need to crunch it a little bit, we can. He had thought, and there was an understanding between he and the city manager that it was going to be a 6-month evaluation, not a 4-month evaluation. So they've been working on a different timeline. And so just trying to kind of work through all those details is something that we definitely need to do. But the key takeaway from our meeting today is the matrix concept is a wonderful idea, but until we have data that is measurable and can be collected so that it can be analyzed, that model is not really working. Does that make sense to this body?
Yes.
And so that is where we are at now. I would love to get some feedback from the group as to how all of you feel about this. Like I said, we've really tried to do a much more comprehensive evaluation, and then when we started kind of digging in a little bit, it's changed a bit. The consultant definitely had some positive things to say about our current form. He had some things that he thought we could do better. But again, in the interest of time, he thought that what we currently have could be adequate for the check-in evaluation. He is also recommending that we do quarterly check-ins and reiterate what the priorities are, see if priorities have changed so that we are all on the same page and that all evaluations are scheduled far enough in advance that if you want a June 1st evaluation, then it would have to work backwards from that, and it is scheduled literally a year in advance so that everybody is on board with that.
Well, let me ask you a question of the city manager first. If we defer till July, it doesn't obviously align with the fiscal year. Generally, we tried to complete the city manager's evaluation by the end of the fiscal year to make adjustments to salaries and benefits if they were warranted. Do you have any objection or concern with deferring another, 60 days?
We discussed that actually at the meeting, that, yes, well, it's nice to align with the fiscal year. There's no, reason council can't act at any point in time in terms of whether it be, merit increase or whatever the case may be. So I don't feel that, I'd rather have a well thought out process than, quote unquote, potentially get a raise 2 weeks earlier, so to speak.
Right. And one of the things in that timing as far as merit increases was that looking at doing an evaluation that is a little bit more in the January time frame, like a 6-month or so evaluation when you are in the budget processing mind frame, so that we are looking at moving dollars forward into the next fiscal year budget.
So are you recommending that we do his evaluation then at the second meeting in July or the first?
Just give me one moment and let me just pull.
I believe they're back to back because of an adjustment that was made to the schedule in December. Is that correct, Clerk Royal? Are the meetings for July both the 13th and then the 20th?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the second meeting in July, obviously, that doesn't make that big of a difference then.
Right. So the time frame that we were looking at is that 5/20, which is this week, the pre-evaluation summary would be going to the city manager, and he would have until the 25th to return it, with the 28th sending that evaluation to council. And yes, he is looking at the 22nd of June as a closed session, correct? Is that what he said?
That was the crunch timeline.
So that was what we were looking at. Those were the numbers on which he had given us earlier.
He recommended doing the second meeting in July.
And so then we talked about moving it out.
Okay, so if you're aiming for the second meeting in July, that means material need to be distributed to council probably by the tail end of June, with a return date somewhere between July the 6th and I would guess July the 10th, for Ms. Getzman to compile the data into an Excel spreadsheet so it can go out in the packet on July the 15th.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that, but I would like to get this done. So yes. I'm amenable to doing July 20th, but I don't want to defer any later than that.
No, I don't think that I would see anything moving it any further beyond that. And part of it is that Ms. Getzman will not be doing the data collection. He will be doing the data collection, and he needs to do it. He was also very adamant in giving each party a time frame that included a weekend, so that those that work outside of this body are able to have the time in which to focus on it.
Fair enough. Council, let me start with Councilmember Hall. Do you have any objection to proceeding with the city manager's evaluation on the 20th, which means that material will get to you well in advance of that time for you to complete and return?
I do not. My only ask would be that, given that we can't exactly, at this point, tie our city manager's performance to our city plan or our strategic plan, what I would hope is that in that check-in style performance evaluation, that we can establish some baseline metrics for us to then be able to map out what a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year target can be. Because I feel like if the problem is that there isn't measurability right now, we have to start that measurability somewhere.
Fair enough. Councilmember Delorco, any objection to the 20th of July?
None.
Okay, Councilmember Gearbaugh?
Just a quick clarification for me. Are we in compliance with everything in the contract at this time?
I believe his contract said a 4-month review. And we're on, so we are beyond where we should have been at this point.
I have no problem with that date. I'm just disappointed that I've been bringing this up, and I'm just disappointed that it's taken this long to get it to this point, and I have to voice that opinion. This is what we had a problem with our former our city manager. We need to get it in place. We need to do our quarterly reviews. We need to have this in place. This is not beneficial for this community, nor is beneficial for our operations. So whatever we do, I want to get it done, get it in place. It should be a priority of our next fiscal year to make sure this is done.
Yes, Mr. Gearbaugh, I will add to that one of the things that we adamantly spoke about today for an extended period of time is that there will be a work session in which all of council will provide input as to what its priorities are for the city manager. And whether that is in conjunction with, it will be separate from the strategic planning, but it will be in conjunction with that so that we are able to do this. To do these one-offs, what became very quickly apparent was that the idea did not have the resources behind it to make this happen soon.
And I guess for me also is knowing that we have a human resource director, that this thing should have been put on top of that individual also. So however we do this moving forward, this process and this approach needs to be documented, needs to be put in place, and be maintained in a time schedule.
Yes.
So I appreciate the work you've been doing.
And that is actually another piece that we discussed today at length, is that it doesn't matter who sits at this table or who sits in the corner office. The process should be in place so that it is just able to be done almost on an automatic basis.
Mayor Pro Tem Rice?
Have we properly taken advantage of the extra costs that we paid to our consultant for the Strong Start program?
That's what this is.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. They defer to this particular consultant because this is his particular area of expertise.
Right, and so we're getting everything that we rightfully deserve out of that additional $4,000 that we paid them?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we're not paying for the services that we're getting now because it was included.
Yeah, I was just looking through what they offered was 12 months executive coaching, relationship kickoff with facilitated goal setting and mutual expectations discussion, 6-month check-in with city council, which obviously didn't happen, and facilitation of the first year evaluation process, which we're talking about now.
Right.
Does July 20th work for you?
Yeah. I'd sooner rather than later for sure.
I don't think there's any desire to go any further or any later than July 20th. And I guess I would say, too, that we don't need a perfect document. If we're aiming for a perfect document, this process could continue to linger and drag on. I think, craft something that is good enough that you feel comfortable with. We can always make revisions and modifications for next year, but we'll aim for July the 20th. I'm assuming, Mr. Swallow, you'd like to go into a closed session on that at that time. So we'll make sure that we get Mr. Swallow's self-evaluation and a blank form to each of you by the end of July with a definitive date at which your narrative and responses need to be turned in. Consultant will compile them and they'll be made part of the packet in advance of July the 20th. Anything else you want to say about the city manager's evaluation?
No, I think that is all.
All right, follow-up items.
So follow-up items, we have several things that are sort of, we've discussed, and then, again, they're not coming back around. At our last meeting, we discussed the council retreat documentation that still has not been received by council. We still have not had the strategic planning session dates submitted to us and who would be available to facilitate that. We have not followed back with the Bixby Marionettes, metric marketing, the green space. We were supposed to have received, there's certain things like read-only access to software programs, BSNA. That still is not happening. And so just trying to understand where we stand. We talk about things, and I think we need to develop a better system to where these are circling back and that we are able to then either address them or move from them.
I can give an update on a couple. I know the Bixby agreement, revised agreement, is still being worked on. I hope to get that on a council agenda sometime in July. City Manager Swallow, I see no reason why before the close of business tomorrow at 5 p.m., Maggie or someone from your office can't send out a calendar, well, it wouldn't be a calendar invite, it would be a list of tentative dates for department heads and council to consider for a council retreat, assuming we got a clearance from Diana Wong or her associates to help facilitate. The green space will be a discussion, will likely be a discussion at a work meeting in advance of our next regular meeting. And then, of course, at our subsequent meeting, we'll have 2 work meetings in July. The first to discuss the green space, town square, and then the second will be in the presentation, excuse me, from the rec center implementation team.
Excuse me. GIS, who am I thinking of? City engineer. Tesha Humphries has asked for the second meeting to be GIS. So
can't do it. It's the part of the motion vis-a-vis the rec center implementation team was that they had to report by the second meeting in June.
Okay, I did not say that as a work meeting. I thought maybe it was just going to be on council. So I will talk with her. Just want to make sure.
Anything else, Councilmember Dillon?
I think those were some of the follow-up items that I had.
Western Island.
So the Western Island, the third island, that's the one at Mills. If everyone recalls, that's the one that unfortunately did not get a water source when it was installed. And so because it does not have a water source, it has never had plantings. And we've struggled with that. It's always got weeds. They've tried to add stone, they've added cement, they've added lots of different things. It looks terrible all of the time. It's hit all of the time. Right now, there's a large piece of concrete on the side of it that has obviously been taken off at some point by some vehicle. It's also an impediment to turning left off of Mills. The way that that's designed. And I just think that at some point there needs to be some new look over engineering and decide whether or not this is an island that we want to keep. And if we want to keep it, how can we make it look? It's just, you know, it's the ugly stepsister to the others. It really, it's a gateway to our community and it's an eyesore. So either we need to do something to enhance it or it should be removed.
At a minimum, I think there are some, I walk that vicinity frequently with my dog. I believe there are some weeds in that island that ought to be removed before the Memorial Day parade and festivities. I think as a stopgap measure, investing, it would be a modest investment in some preen and putting it down to prevent weeds from germinating would be advantageous, but I do think long-term thinking about what could either be placed in there to make it more attractive or if it would be more beneficial to have it removed. Maybe you can discuss that with the DPS director, excuse me, and report back at a later meeting. RFP bidding. Is that you, Mr. Delarco?
Yes, thank you. At our last asset management meeting, we went through a laundry list of items, but one thing that keeps coming back, which is increasingly concerning for me, is that we authorized a postponement of work that needs to be done on the mill race for the express purpose of giving the engineering department and DPW more time to solicit bids for an alternative approach, one that doesn't involve a cofferdam, one that would be more cost effective. And it was communicated that we still don't have any traction on that there's no contractors that have been identified to, quote, willing to take on the work. And if that's the case, if we're relying solely on our subcontracted engineering firm to solicit those bids, I think that's inherently problematic, and that we should be moving in the direction of a public request for proposal on that initiative, and as we should be doing for all bids, to make them not sole source and to make it equitable and fair for the public to bid on these projects.
Do you care to comment, Mr. Swallow?
Sure. We had a conversation with engineering as well as a conference call with Spicer Group. They, feel that this is somewhat specialized work, and they're not, don't have a final design as to exactly how it could be done, to be honest. Obviously, this is proposed as an alternative as to the coffer dam, and so they have contacted 4 contractors that have done this type of work in the past, and they have a site visit scheduled for this week to try and evaluate and see, is that even, from a contractor standpoint, is the alternative design even feasible?
Okay, so I think if we were open this up to public bidding, we would get contractors to submit proposals that would offer those explanations and would offer. The problem is we're assuming that this job requires engineering, and that may or may not necessarily be the case. All we're looking to do is add a second set of stop logs in behind the ones that currently exist. And I've been approached by contractors that said they would like to bid on this project, and there isn't an opportunity for them to have done so.
Well, to put something out to bid, we obviously have to have, design and some specifications to be able to do that. So you have to come to a conclusion of how you want to do that in order so that you're getting apples to apples and not just getting,
so that was
different ideas.
I understand, but that was my understanding of why we postponed it the last time this came up, was that we were offering direction to yourself and city staff to put together those bid specs so that this could go out for public bid.
So, I guess from the standpoint of Spicer Group is not entirely sure that it can even be done, according to, and so they are looking to contractors who have done, various types of work to basically evaluate. These are some basic parameters. Could you complete the work in this manner?
Yeah, if I may, Councilmember DeLorco, can I ask this question? Mr. Swallow, you said there's a meeting or there's some vendors who are coming on site this week?
Yes.
So is it realistic to assume that we could have something more tangible to digest or consider at our next council meeting?
Yes, I think if we don't get the response and then it come back to council for, we can put it out to bid and see what happens, and try and come up with the best specifications we can. Rather than, at this point, we're still kind of working with contractors to see, is that even feasible to do something behind the existing stop logs?
Can I ask how is that request being put out there? How are vendors being invited to attend? Is it a public posting, or is just a select group being asked?
So they've contacted 4 that have done dam work in the past that have a reputation for that.
Has O'Neill Construction been part of that list?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So they've expressed interest in bidding on the project, and they were the ones that did the dam rehabilitation in the 70s. And so they are dam specialists.
When is this meeting scheduled to occur?
I don't know the exact times.
Well, I mean, is there any harm in inviting additional vendors or posting it publicly? Yeah, I would just do that. Just do that in the interim, and then I would ask the city clerk, make sure that this is enumerated as at a minimum a discussion item for our first meeting in June, and we can revisit, and the city manager can provide an update, and if it's appropriate at that juncture to submit a formal RFP, we can proceed in that direction. Councilmember Halsh.
I just have a rookie question. Is there a point at which a RFP does go public that is baked into our current policies? In that after, as City Manager Swallow mentioned, they aren't quite sure. And I also understand that we are on sort of a time crunch in understanding the problem and how we need to move forward. So to me, it almost makes sense that I guess we as a body decide, like, if there isn't within any process similar to this, specialized bidding, I guess, for lack of a better term, if there was, I guess, a point in time that does trigger an automatic, like, we're gonna bid this out to the public.
I mean, we have a policy. Do you want to pull the policy and send it to everyone on council, but specifically to Councilmember Walsh?
Sure, I mean, basically, the policy states that over certain dollar thresholds, you would try and bid it publicly. There are exceptions for specialized work that require, a unique skill set.
Is there anything related to time, though?
No.
Or, okay.
It's the policy. But take a look at the policy. If we want to revise, strengthen the policy, we're obviously free to do so, and I would recommend, I think it was Councilmember Rice or Mayor Pro Tem Rice mentioned maybe a laundry list of items to consider at the policy committee. If you think there's deficiencies with our existing policy, maybe this is another policy worth considering revisions to. Okay, Councilmember Gearbaugh?
I was just going to mention, there are other approaches. You could do a request for information, which you basically put a general idea out there with some very general information, asking for them to provide you with a different type of quote or whatever. It doesn't go through the full bid process, and you don't have necessarily that, but that is a way of approaching it. You could approach it to other engineering firms to give us an idea of whether or not, part of our thing is we've always been going with Spicer. Should we have another opinion?
Very good. Well, City Manager, you're empowered to, to Mr., I think it was Delarico who made the point of another vendor worth inviting. Let's make sure that they are offered an invitation. Let's post it publicly. However, that we'll leave it to your judgment how best that can be done. You'll proceed with the meeting, and we can report back out, or you can report out at our first meeting in June. If there's consensus to revise the policy or to put this out to RFP, we can certainly do so. If there's nothing further to be brought up under the discussion portion of tonight's agenda, we come now to the second and last public comment period. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward and make comment to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Those wishing to speak are requested, but not required to state their name and address for the record. Please note, City Council generally does not respond to questions during the second public comment period. The record will reflect there are no...
I want to just ask for a little bit of grace and courtesy here. I think Mr. Fan has been waiting for public comment. I believe he just stepped out to use the restroom.
I saw him go out the door.
Did he go out the door and leave? Okay.
Yeah, he went. Yep.
Okay.
I was watching just in case.
Okay, thank you for seeing that, because I can't.
Let me defer first to the city clerk. Did we receive any written comments in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual wanted their remarks read at this time?
No, sir.
Okay. One last call. Do you want to poke your head out the window there, Ben, and see if you see any commotion in the hallway?
No.
Okay. One last call for public comments. The record will reflect there are no members of the public present in the audience as of 9:32. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to convene into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268H to consider materially exempt from discussion or disclosure by state and federal statute, namely a confidential written opinion by the city attorney pursuant to MCL 15.268C to discuss strategy connected with the negotiations of a collective bargaining agreement. Moved by Gearbaugh to convene into closed session at 9:32. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rice. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Del Orgo?
Yes.
Councilmember Dillon?
Yes.
Councilmember Gearbaugh?
Yes.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rice?
Yes.
Mayor Marl?
Yes, we are convened into closed session at 9:33. Good, men?
$50 to get a $20.
Is there a motion to reconvene into regular session at 10:45? Moved by Gearboss, seconded by Dillon. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Del Orco,
Yes.
Councilmember Dillon,
Yes.
Councilmember Gearboss,
Yes.
Councilmember Welch,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rice.
Yes.
Yes, we are reconvened into regular session at 10:45. I wish it was 8:45. Is there any additional business to become before Saline City Council this evening? Then the chair would be happy to adjourn this regular meeting at 10:46.
So moved.
Moved by Gearbaugh and again seconded by Dillon. If there's no discussion, all those in favor of adjourning say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
You want to say Mayor?
I didn't realize that.